Good morning, class 10. We were doing the chapter Nationalism in India and we shall continue the lesson today. Let us quickly see where we stopped in our last class. We were doing the Rowlatt Act, and I had told you that in spite all opposition, the Rowlatt Act was passed in the year 1919. What was the purpose? Why did the British want to pass this act? What was the purpose of the Rowlatt Act? The purpose of this act was to curb the growing nationalist feelings in the country. As we had studied last time, that under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, nationalist feelings were growing in the country. The people were now ready to fight and turn the British out of the country. And in order to curb this feeling of nationalism, in order to curb the growing national sentiment in the country, the Rowlatt Act was passed. Anybody who was seen, any person or group of people who was seen raising their voice or revolting against the British rule, they were put behind bars, and they were not even asked to explain. They were not even given a chance to give any explanation, but they were simply put behind bars. So in order to curb the nationalist feelings in the country, the Rowlatt Act was passed in 1919 in spite of all opposition. Now let us continue. Rallies were organized in various cities. Now in this paragraph we will see how was the Rowlatt Act opposed. In the previous paragraph we have seen why was the Rowlatt Act passed. Here we will see how did the people of India oppose the Rowlatt Act. How did they show their disagreement? Rallies were organized in various cities. Workers went on strike in railway workshops and shops closed down. Please keep on underlining. All these things are very important. So you can give them, you can point them, these lines you can change into point. First point is rallies were organized in various cities. Second point, workers went on strike in railway workshops. And third point, shops closed down. Alarmed by the popular upsurge and scared that lines of communication such as railways and telegraphs would be disrupted. Why were they alarmed that the railways and telegraph lines can be disrupted? Because see, in the first line we have seen workers went on strike in railway workshops. So when the workers went on strike, the means of communication were also, the smoothness in the means of communication was also affected, and the British people were scared now that the lines of communication such as railways and telegraphs might be disrupted. There might be a problem because the workers are on strike. So they tried to curb all these protests. I am reading this again. Alarmed by the popular upsurge, that means the popular uprising, the popular revolt, and scared that lines of communication such as railways and telegraphs would be disrupted, the British administration decided to clamp down on nationalists. They decided to turn down the revolts and attack and ask the nationalists to stop their revolts. The Britishers planned that the nationalists should be curbed. Otherwise, this would become a national movement. Local leaders were picked up from Amritsar. Now the first step that the Britishers took to clamp down or to stop the nationalists to continue the upsurge, to continue to revolt, the first step that they took was local leaders, the leaders within particular cities all over India. Local leaders were picked up from Amritsar. So the first place was Amritsar, where local leaders were picked up. And Mahatma Gandhi was barred from entering Delhi. He was stopped from entering Delhi. On 10th April, the police of Amritsar fired upon a peaceful procession. provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices, and railway stations. Children, please pay attention. This paragraph is very important because it is going to tell you about Jallianwala Bagh massacre, which is written on the next page. Jallianwala Bagh massacre is a very, very important question from board exam point of view. So from here the background begins of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Please pay attention. What was the first thing done by the Britishers? The local leaders were picked up and in Amritsar, and Mahatma Gandhi was not allowed to enter Delhi now. On 10th April, the police in Amritsar fired upon a peaceful procession, provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices, and railway stations. Martial law was imposed and General Dyer took command. General Dyer was the main person who was behind the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now the paragraph which we are going to read, the whole paragraph is going to describe about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So please pay attention and learn everything by heart. It is a very important question which is often asked in the board exam. On 13th April, the infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident took place. Remember the date, 13th April. The infamous Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Jallianwala Bagh incident took place. On that day, a large crowd gathered in the enclosed ground of Jallianwala Bagh. Maybe some of you have seen Jallianwala Bagh if you have been to Amritsar. It is in Amritsar and it is a very important historical site now because of this infamous incident which took place in Jallianwala Bagh on 13th April. On that day, a large crowd gathered in the enclosed ground of Jallianwala Bagh. Some came to protest against the government's new repressive measures. So among these people who had crowded in the ground of Jallianwala Bagh, some people had come to protest against the government's new repressive measures. Government's measures to curb the nationalist feelings. Government's measures to put people behind bars, to put Indians behind bars without any trial. All these things, all these unjust measures which the Britishers were taking against the Indian people, many people had gathered here to show their protest against them. Others had come to attend the annual Baisakhi fair. 13th April is the time of Baisakhi also. So some people had come to celebrate Baisakhi and take part in the Baisakhi fair. Others had come to attend the annual Baisakhi fair. Being from outside the city, many villagers were unaware of the martial law that had been imposed. Many people who had come from other places, they did not belong to Amritsar, they were not aware of the strict law that had been imposed by General Dyer. Dyer entered the area. Now pay attention. General Dyer entered the area. Which area? Jallianwala Bagh. Blocked the exit points and opened fire on the crowd. The people were not allowed to escape. They were not given a chance to run because all exit points were blocked. And opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds. So many people had crowded in this Jallianwala Bagh and General Dyer entered this area. He started firing on the Indian people. He blocked all exit points and the people died there, killing hundreds. His object, as he declared, was to produce a moral effect, to create in minds of Satyagrahis a feeling of terror and awe. Why did he do this inhuman thing? Why did he attack the Indians? Why did he kill the Indians? He did not give any opportunity to save their lives, to run away and save themselves. His main aim was to create this effect in the minds of the people that if they will raise their voices against the Britishers, this is going to be their end. He wanted to create a terror in the minds of the people. He wanted to produce a moral effect. That means such an effect in the minds of the people that they must remember that if they will stand against the British rule, this is how they will be put to an end. So this whole paragraph, as I had told you children, is extremely important. Please learn everything starting from on 13th April till feeling of terror and awe. Everything is very important. You can put a heading in the starting of the paragraph, Jallianwala Bagh massacre. This is a very important question from your exam point of view. Now let us see how did the people react when this inhuman incident took place. How did the Indians react and what were they forced to do after that? Was their reaction after seeing this Jallianwala Bagh incident, was their reaction fruitful? Were they successful in revolting against the British? What they were forced to do after they were seen revolting against the Jallianwala Bagh incident? Let us see. As the news of Jallianwala Bagh spread, crowds took to the streets in many North Indian towns. That means as soon as the people came to know about this inhuman incident, about this massacre which took place in Jallianwala Bagh, thousands of people came out on the streets in various cities of North India and they started showing their agitation. They started agitating against the British rule. There were strikes. Keep on underlining. This shows what did the people do to show their protest, to show their anger. There were strikes, clashes with the police and attacks on government buildings. This is how the Indians revolted. They started strikes in various places. They started clashing. That means they started coming into conflict with the police and they attacked government buildings. The government responded with brutal repression. Now, when the government saw, remember at this time, most of the government offices were ruled by the Britishers. So when the government saw that the Indians are coming out on the streets, they are striking, they are fighting with the police, they are putting the government buildings on fire, they are attacking the government buildings, so they decided to suppress them. They decided to stop the Indians from revolting like this because it was a danger to the British rule. The government responded with brutal repression. Brutal means mercilessly, without showing any mercy, without showing any kindness, without thinking what they are doing, how they are suppressing the Indians. Brutally, mercilessly, they started curbing the revolts which the Indians had started on the streets and in cities and towns. The government responded with brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. They were humiliated, the people were treated very, very badly, and they were terrorized also. Satyagrahis were forced to rub their noses on the ground. Now see, this is an example of how they were humiliated. The Satyagrahis, those who revolted, those who were Satyagrahis, they were forced to rub their noses on the ground. Crawl on the streets, another example of humiliation. Just imagine the condition of Indians at that time, rubbing their nose on the ground and crawling on the streets just because they wanted freedom, just because they were revolting against the British rule, their oppressive measures, their unjust measures, and incidents like Jallianwala Bagh massacre. The government responded with brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. Satyagrahis were forced to rub their noses on the ground, crawl on the streets, and do salam or salute to all sahibs. All the white people, the Britishers, the sahibs as they were called, the Indians were forced to salute them just because they were under the British rule. The Indians were under the British rule at that time. We were treated as slaves, so the Indians were forced to rub their noses on the ground, to crawl on the streets and salute the sahibs. People were flogged. Flogged means they were beaten repeatedly. Again and again they were beaten. People were flogged, and villages around Gujranwala in Punjab, now in Pakistan, were bombed. Villages were bombed so that the remaining population should also die, and the people were beaten cruelly and mercilessly. Seeing violence spread, Mahatma Gandhi called off the movement. Now when Mahatma Gandhi saw how brutally the Indians were treated, how they were humiliated, how the villages were bombed, and thousands of people were killed everywhere, they were dying here and there, so Mahatma Gandhi called off the Satyagraha movement which he had started. Now let us see what happened. While the Rowlatt Satyagraha had been a widespread movement, it was still limited mostly to cities and towns. I am reading again. While the Rowlatt Satyagraha we are calling it because it was a Satyagraha movement against the Rowlatt Act. While the Rowlatt Satyagraha had been a widespread movement, it was still limited mostly to cities and towns. That means although it was widespread, but still it was not so widespread that it covered all the village population also, all the rural population also. No, it was still limited to cities and towns. Mahatma Gandhi now felt the need to launch a more broad-based movement in India. Since it was the Rowlatt Satyagraha movement, since it was still confined to cities and towns, now Mahatma Gandhi decided that he should launch a more widespread movement in India which should involve more people, which should involve more Indians, so that unitedly we could throw the British out of India. But he was certain that no such movement could be organized without bringing the Hindus and Muslims closer together. Very important. He wanted to start a widespread movement, but he was also sure that without Hindu-Muslim unity, this was not possible. Starting a widespread movement which involves the whole of India, it was not possible unless and until the Hindus and the Muslims were united. One way of doing this, he felt, was to take up the Khilafat issue. Now he felt that in order to unite the Hindus and the Muslims, the best way was to take up or was to raise the Khilafat issue. Now let us see what is Khilafat issue. The First World War had ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey, and there were rumors that a harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on the Ottoman Emperor, the spiritual head of the Islamic world, the Khalifa. This means, these three lines mean that when the First World War came to an end, it was believed that Khalifa, who was the spiritual head of the Islamic world, his powers would be curbed. his worldly powers, the worldly powers of the Khalifa, the powers of the Khalifa would be curbed to a large extent. This rumor had started spreading after the First World War. I am reading this again. The First World War had ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey, and there were rumors that a harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on the Ottoman Emperor. A harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed. This was a rumor. What, according to this rumor, what will happen to the Ottoman Emperor, that is the Khalifa? His powers would be checked to a large extent. His powers would be curbed to a large extent. This was just a rumor. To defend the Khalifa's temporal powers. Temporal powers means worldly powers, the powers to control the world. To defend the Khalifa's temporal powers, a Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919 in order to see that Khalifa got all his powers and no powers were you can say none of his powers were taken away from him. In order to ensure this, what was done? A Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919. A young generation of Muslim leaders like the brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali began discussing with Mahatma Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, along with Mahatma Gandhi, started discussing about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. Which issue are we talking about? To see that all temporal powers are given to the Khalifa. In order to secure the position of Khalifa, in order to secure his powers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, along with Mahatma Gandhi, decided that they must take a united mass action. A united mass action involving the Hindus and the Muslims both, so that the powers of the Khalifa could be safeguarded. I am reading this part again. A young generation of Muslim leaders like the brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali began discussing with Mahatma Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. Gandhiji saw this as an opportunity to bring Muslims under the umbrella of a united national movement. So Mahatma Gandhi felt that if he will give support, he along with mass population will give support to Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, so that everybody could defend the temporal power of the Khalifa. This would bring the Muslims under the national movement. Under the umbrella of the national movement means he would be able to successfully encourage the Muslims to join the national movements. By doing so, Muslims would easily join the national movement. He would win the confidence of the Muslims, and his movement, his further movements would become a mass movement. At the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khalifa as well as for Swaraj. So, keeping in mind the interests of both the Hindus and the Muslims, what did Gandhiji do? I am reading again. At the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders to start the need for non-cooperation movement in support for Khalifa and for Swaraj. In order to fulfill the demands of the Khalifa, in order to secure the temporal powers of the Khalifa and give him justice, and also to fight for Swaraj, to see that India gets Swaraj, Indians get their Swaraj. To fulfill both these aims, Mahatma Gandhi decided to start a non-cooperation movement with the help of other leaders involving a large number of population also. Now let us see why non-cooperation. What was the need? In his famous book Hind Swaraj, underline Hind Swaraj, children, and please remember, learn it by heart, that this book has been written by Mahatma Gandhi. You can be asked this question in multiple choice. This is also often asked in multiple choice. Several authors will be given to you and you will have to put a tick mark who has written Hind Swaraj. So if you don't know, you will do some guesswork or maybe your answer goes completely wrong. Hind Swaraj was written by Mahatma Gandhi. In his famous book Hind Swaraj 1909, Mahatma Gandhi declared that British rule was established in India with the cooperation of the Indians and had survived only because of this cooperation. I hope you have understood. In his book Hind Swaraj, Mahatma Gandhi emphasized the fact, he declared the fact that British rule was established in India with the cooperation of the Indians and had survived only because of this cooperation. That means he is directly saying in his book Hind Swaraj that there are some people in India, due to their support and cooperation, the Britishers have been able to establish their supremacy in India and they are surviving in India for so many years. If Indians refuse to cooperate, British rule in India would collapse within a year and Swaraj would come. Very, very important thing Mahatma Gandhi has emphasized. He said that if we withdraw, if the Indians withdraw their cooperation from the British, if we do not cooperate, then it will not take more than a year to turn the British out of India, because without the support of the Indians, Britishers would not be able to continue to exist in India and Swaraj will come. How could non-cooperation become a movement? Now before I read this, write important on the right side of this paragraph. This whole paragraph is important. How could non-cooperation become a movement? Non-cooperation, remember, against whom? Against the British, obviously. Gandhiji proposed that the movement should unfold in stages. That means we cannot start or make a movement, a non-cooperation movement, all of a sudden. It should proceed in stages, step by step. It should begin with the surrender of titles. If you remember, we have studied this in class 9th also, and maybe in class 8th also you have studied in your history lesson, that titles like Sir, Khan Sahab, Khan Bahadur, such type of titles were given by the Britishers to some of the Indians. So the first thing we should do is surrender such titles which have been given by the British. It should begin with the surrender of titles that the government awarded, and a boycott of civil services. Another second important thing. So, yeah, children, you can put points here. The first thing that that Mahatma Gandhi proposed in order to show our non-cooperation towards the British rule was, first thing, we should surrender the titles given by the government. Second, boycott of civil services. That means we should not join the civil services. We should not, who are those people who qualify civil services? They are civil servants. They are civil servants. And what do the civil servants do? They occupy high posts in the country. They become IAS officers and they are involved in the administration of the country. But at this time, remember, India was governed not by Indians alone. Majority were Britishers. So if the people of India will be chosen as civil servants. They will also be sitting along with the people, along with the British people in government offices, which would not help us to bring about Swaraj, because if any of the Indians would sit in the government offices along with the Britishers, then that means those Indians are along with the Britishers and they are doing what the Britishers are commanding them to do. So if we will boycott such posts, if the Indians would boycott such posts, they will boycott civil services, then we are showing that we are not ready to work with the Britishers, we are not ready to sit with them in the offices and follow their instructions and their commands. So this was another way to show non-cooperation. So put point number 2, boycott of civil services, army, police, boycotting all these, boycotting joining the army, joining of the police services, courts and legislative councils, that means not standing in elections also, schools and foreign goods, boycotting the studies in schools run by the Britishers, or using foreign made goods, British made goods. So this whole line will become point number 2. Then in case the government used repression, a full civil disobedience campaign would be launched. So Mahatma Gandhi said that in order to show non-cooperation towards the Britishers, let us begin by these measures. And if the government starts repressing us, they try to curb us, they try to control the movement, they don't allow the Indians to continue, then what we will do? We will start a full civil disobedience campaign in India. Through the summer of 1920, Mahatma Gandhi and Shaukat Ali toured extensively, mobilizing popular support for the movement. Very important thing they did. In the summer of 1920, Mahatma Gandhi and Shaukat Ali, they toured all over India extensively. They went everywhere they could go. Why? Mobilizing popular support for the movement. Mobilizing popular support means encouraging more and more people to join the movement. They tried to tour the whole country so that they could bring more and more people under them, they could gain more and more support for making this non-cooperation movement a success. Many within the Congress were, however, concerned about the proposals. They were reluctant to boycott the council elections scheduled for November 1920. Now, everywhere you will see this, children, that whenever any new movement starts, whenever any new struggle starts, 100% cooperation is hardly seen. If 80 people are for, 20 you will file against. There will be 20 people who will see their selfish motives, who will fight for their selfish motives, who will not cooperate with the majority population, and they will